What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Burndown YouTube channel. We're at it once again. We are back out here. Today's project is putting the bullets back in the bullet. We're putting the pistons back in the thing. I don't know. I think they usually call the engine a bullet. So the slugs. Let's put the slugs back in the bullet. That sounds much better. Before we get started, I gotta get my car guy slang down because I just sound like a complete amateur. Anyways, before we get started, I want to thank every single person on here for following along, subscribing, you know, cheering me on, and all that fun stuff. And I would like to say too, I caught a little bit of flack, kind of about this engine, a little bit because I'm from the sloppy mechanics camp. You know, it's always been stock bottom end stuff, as cheap as you can. My first 5.3 was 60 bucks. I pulled it out of the dirt, we cam swapped it, and I've kind of grown ever since. Well, I did a stock bottom end 5.3. That thing lasted for quite a while. It made enough power that it munched everything behind it. So I've been doing iterations of the car to keep up with the power that I had. Well, long story short, I ended up getting this engine. If you are not following along, I got this as a block with a crank, missing this rear main cap. It's stamped 5, and it's stamped 5 and a stamped 1, right? So this is a stamped 1. You'll notice this is a 1 main cap turned the other way. So I got this thing for 150 bucks, missing a main cap, dropped it off to my guy, and he was like, yeah, I got a main cap, I can fix it. Well, here we are. So I have decent pistons and decent everything because the amount of money I would have spent to buy an engine like this, or a 6-liter or any of them, I just figured I would dump it into parts. And the other thing I did that I think is smart, that you guys may or may not know, depending if you build motors or whatever, is the stock rod length on a 6.2 is the same as a 6-liter, and it's the same as a 5.3. So before I even got these rods, I talked to Carrillo and I said, hey, can I get one rod? And I'm sure the guy was very disappointed to hear that question on the other end of the phone, but he was like, yeah, if you want. And I'm like, perfect, I'm sold. Because when I send one of these to the moon, one of these days when I finally get brave and turn things up, we're trying to actually go fast, I will only have 7, and I'll need 1 because I can't afford to buy 8 rods every time like all these other guys you see. So I've done my homework, and these are hard parts. I want to continue to have them for quite a while. If we smoke this motor, we'll pull these pistons off, we'll put them in a box, and we'll get some smaller ones. We'll probably go 5.3. If I get lucky again and I find another $150 6.2, you best bet it's going in the boom again or in whatever else race car I have by then. But moral of the story is, we're all working on a budget. Sometimes you get lucky, you fall in the pile of turds and you come out smelling like roses. And then it led me to where we are now, which is amateur engine building hour. And honestly, the stock bottom end stuff is fantastic, and it's put together by a multi-billion-dollar manufacturing company, and they actually do it right. Imagine that. And then you get in the garage and you start thinking you're going to be awesome, and you screw things up. So this is how I learned. This is what we're doing. Hopefully you guys are learning from what I'm doing, learning from my mistakes. You're going, hey, that doesn't look too bad. Or you're like, this guy's a complete idiot, and I'll just run junkyard engines and make some power and have some fun. So I appreciate all you guys for following along. And we're just trying to learn as we go, one foot in front of the other. And I will say this as well before we get started is, you know, sometimes you come on here and you got to make the I suck videos, and it's not fun. I'll be completely honest with you. The camera gets a lot heavier to hold up and talk to when it's, hey, look I did something that was completely preventable because I don't know, you know, or I just cut a corner because I was lazy, or whatever the fact was. It wasn't done properly for whatever reason. So to own up to it, I feel like these videos are more valuable than the ones where I'm just winning and crushing everything, because that's not how real life happens. When you go to the races, there's one guy that wins. There's one guy that wins in each class. Everybody else, technically, let's be honest, they're all losers, right? But they're all there to have fun and to do stuff, and ultimately, you're gonna go through a lot more losses than wins, especially in this hobby. There's so much to learn in a car, of setting a drag car up, I mean, everything. And then when you start getting into, hey, I'm gonna put a transmission together myself, hey, I'm gonna do an engine, like you might as well just start over with the learning process, because you think you get pretty far because you could put an engine in and out or a transmission and you got some stuff hooked up and you got some basic electronics and it kind of goes. Well, you get into the things like this and it's like, you realize, I mean, the more you know, the more you really, really don't know. But I will say this one thing. It does not matter how many times you fall down. You can fall down 100 times, you can fall down 1,000 times. You just have to get up either 101 times or 1,001 times or 1,000,001. You just have to continue to get up, because if you stay down, you lose, and then you're beat, you know? Sometimes you need a break, sometimes you need to walk away. I do that from time to time. But all in all, you just get back up and you figure it out, and it makes the victory that much sweeter. One of these days, the stars are gonna line up and this thing's gonna do work, and we're gonna be excited, hopefully together. But until then, we're gonna put our head down and we're gonna work and try to get this thing working properly. But I will say this as well, I did learn a ton because I screwed this up. Because before I screwed this up, it came from the machine shop and I assembled it. I didn't do anything. I just put it all together and ran it. We took it to race week and everything was good. Self-inflicted with the oil problem, and then the transmission came apart. Well, this go around, this was all my fault because I didn't do my due diligence. But in doing so, I had to stop and pay attention and figure out why, which led me to getting, you know, a School of Hard Knocks education, and brings us to today. So, long-winded intro, but I picked the ugliest rod. I threw it down on here. We threw some plastic gauge. This is a big old blob. I measured it already. It's about 1.5 thousandths. Tolerance is between 1 to like 2 or 2.5. I believe on those. I think it's the same as the mains. It could be different, but I know as long as it's at least 2 or a little shyer of 2, we should have oil pressure, because that's what we're looking for. So you can look it up. I don't know what the exact spec is, but I know that this is 1.5, and I know that that is within spec. And like I said, it was the ugliest one that I saw. So what we're gonna do is clean the rest of these up, lube everything up. I have the crank in place already. This is all torqued down. This guy spins awesome. So now we gotta wipe off our booger there. We'll pull this piston back out. And then what I'd like to do is put some oil around the rings, a bunch of lube. We'll lube all these guys. And we will take our time, torque them all down. These are CP Perillo rods, 75 foot-pounds on the torque. And we gotta clean everything off really good. And the quick tip, because I'm just gonna put you guys on a time lapse, this is the Fastener assembly lubricant. So put a little under the head, put a little bit on this guy, on every single one of them. Make sure everything's nice and clean before you do it. And this will help you get the correct torque on your bolts. And if you are doing a stock bottom end deal, it is not 75 pounds. You will smoke your rod bolt. I want to say on a stock bottom end, if you really wanted to pull it out and put bearings in it, I think it's around 40 foot-pounds, because they do it by angle. But I think it works out to about 40. Don't quote me on that. But if you're an SBE guy, please chime in and let those guys know that don't have rods like this. But even still, some of this assembly lube, even on a stock SBE deal, would probably go a long way, especially if you're reusing the bolts that are on there and they're already stretched and everything. This will get you a good torque, and it won't bind up, and hopefully it won't break nothing. So this is worth the investment, even if you have a stock set of rods and rod bolts, mains, all that stuff. So without further ado, let me throw you on a time lapse. Let's get through this thing, and we're gonna be one step closer to making broom broom sounds. Ta-da! All right, well, here we are. Everybody's torqued down and happy. It was 75 foot-pounds. So I went like 40, and then 60, and then 75 on each of these. So I did them in increments of like 3, right? So you never want to go straight all the way just to torque, and then everybody spins nice. So I can turn this over by hand. You know, it's not terribly stressful to spin it over. So all in all, we are good. And then I'm actually gonna put, there's a girdle that goes over the bottom, so we'll bolt that down over these guys, and then this thing is pretty well a done deal. So I don't know if technically that's considered a short block. I think it is. And then I don't know if the cam and all the other stuff needs to be in there, but the clock is ticking. I will show you this for those of you that stayed to the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching. And I know there's gonna be people who are like, oh, that's obvious. Well, I struggle with this freaking ring gap thing, dude. So this is a ring compressor, so you put it in, and you put the slug over it, and you're supposed to tap it. So what I found is, because you have a gap in this thing, when you put your rings in, they have to be on opposite edges, otherwise you'll have issues. So every time I had an issue, it's because I had one of the ring gaps here close to this. So I finally figured out that I turn on my ring gaps, and then when I clamp this, I made sure that there wasn't any of the open gaps here, because if there was, the thing would just not go in. And then when you hit it, you don't want to slam it. You know, finesse goes a long way, because if it doesn't want to go, you don't want to force it, because rings are brittle. So I found that out. I've broken some before. So that is it. I'm feeling pretty good about it, actually. So hopefully we can just bite it off in chunks, get it done properly, and then as long as we have oil pressure, everything else seemed fairly decent with the car. So I'm hoping that we are good. Like I said, I checked the measurements. We got the new cam bearings. We reused the mains and rods, but they are within spec according to plastic gauge. We rubbed the Old Faithful cardboard on them to make them smooth. Life is good. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. Till next time, I'm out.